Hello, everyone. I was thinking about why theocracies collapse into tyranny and relatively bizarre psychotic tyrannies, and came up with a very, very short progression, which I think may prove useful to you, at least as a thumbnail sketch. I'm certain other people have done this before, and pardon the loud birds. Um, but it is something that explains things nicely and explains why separation of church and state is an important and desirable thing very nicely. And yes, there are counter arguments. We can address that another time. Leave a note in the comments if you have one in particular you'd like me to address. Basically, if the government is going to say that you must have a particular religion, or it is going to favor a particular religion, or it is going to favor religions in general, it has to define what these things are. And the only way that we can define these things is by actions. And if you define something by actions, either you go to church, you profess this particular creed, whatever, you open up the possibility of actions performed in deceit, and in which case this must be punished. And I mean, because if you try and define it as a belief in something, you go to okay, how do you get a belief? How do you get that belief? If the government has to acquire something, if the government says you have to acquire something, then it would be a good idea for the government to make sure there is a way for you to acquire it. To date, there is no way to ensure that someone can acquire a belief. I mean, there's a way to break people, but there's no way to make them believe that the moon is made of green cheese or whatever. At least, I suppose you could come close to inoculating a particular belief, but wow, the consequences. Not inoculating, inculating. Sorry, I'm very, very tired. But going back to the train of thought before, once you have decided that a certain set of behaviors is or is not indicative of this thing that everyone must have, then you become in the business of determining what behaviors are and are not correct. And given the way that people explore every little nook and cranny of the social ecosystem they live in, the longer it goes on, the more and more carefully you must define behavior, and the more stringent those rules become, and the more and more ignored the inconvenient ones are, especially by the powerful. And as, for example, canon law or Sharia law, however you want to look at it, whatever religion you want to look at, eventually you get down to if you do anything we think is suspicious, we will beat your ass and throw you into a jail. Either that or the government throws up its hands and goes, fuck it. That latter usually only happens at the point of a gun or a sword or what have you. But basically, once you take the first step towards theocracy, which we took a long time ago, then it is a series of, it's like walking into ever-deepening quicksand with, like, piranhas that really don't need air in the quicksand. It's not a pleasant thought. So when you see theocracy in your neighborhood or any kind of theocratic impulse, don't feel bad about resisting it. Resist it politely, but resist it. I do not advocate any violence. I do not advocate any destruction. What I do advocate is if you see someone giving you a dirty look because you're not you omit the word under God and words under God in the Pledge of Allegiance, or you don't happen to go to a church and they say, well, why not? That's none of their business. Or if you do go to a church and they give you shit about it. Or if you go to the wrong church and they give you shit about it. Whatever. I'm not arguing for atheism here. That's my position. I don't care if anybody else takes it. And my atheism is different from everybody else's just because my life experiences are different. So, what other people do, that's your problem. What I care about is other people telling other people what to do, whether directly or passive-aggressively. That's not okay. Because we can't be each other. And the only way that we can even pretend to is to dumb ourselves down to a lowest common denominator. And that's not okay. It results in crazy things happening. So a little rambly here. I hope you understood something of what I said, and I hope you have a nice weekend. Thank you for your time and attention.